The hidden rules that shape female friendships. Have you ever walked into a room filled with laughter, but instead of feeling warmth, a strange, suffocating tension rose inside you? The laughter echoed, the words sounded friendly, yet deep down you could feel invisible strings tightening around you. Strings that force you to smile at the right time, to nod when the group nods, to move in rhythm with a song you never wanted to dance to. Female friendship is often idealized as a sanctuary of comfort and sharing. But there are truths few dare to admit. Within it live hidden rules no one writes down, no one teaches, yet everyone silently understands. You know they are there when your heart clenches in what should be a harmless conversation. You find yourself carefully choosing your words, holding back your genuine joy, dimming your own light just so you won't be cast out of the circle. The pain isn't only in someone being unkind. The deeper pain lies in not recognizing that this game has been there all along, and you've been pulled into it even when you never wanted to play. You may think it's just your personal feeling, but in reality, you've stumbled upon invisible rules that have left countless others wounded. If you've ever felt alone in the middle of your closest group of friends, you need to keep listening. Because what you are about to hear might shock you when you realize that all this time, you've been living inside a web woven out of expectations, pressure, and fear. We're about to uncover 7 hidden rules silently shaping female friendships. And if you see yourself in them, stay until the end, because the final truth might just change the way you see friendship forever. Rule number 1, never outshine the queen bee. Think back to a moment. You walked into a gathering with your friends, heart full of excitement. Maybe you were wearing a new outfit. Maybe you had good news to share. Or maybe someone's eyes simply lit up when they saw you. You weren't trying to stand out. You weren't competing with anyone. Yet suddenly the atmosphere shifted. Smiles became stiff. The gaze of one person, the one everyone silently regarded as the leader, turned cold. And you knew you had just crossed an invisible line. In many female friend groups, there's always an unspoken queen. She never names herself, but everyone knows. She decides what's funny, who is admired, and who is dismissed. The group revolves around her, like planets around the sun. And the first unspoken rule is clear: never shine brighter than her. All it takes is one compliment directed at you at the wrong moment, or just a little too much attention drifting your way. And suddenly you begin to notice distance forming. Texts go unanswered. Invitations grow fewer. Conversations remain polite, but the warmth is gone. You can't put your finger on what you did wrong, yet deep down you realize the queen felt overshadowed. This is the hidden power dynamic. Her sense of strength doesn't come from genuine connection, but from others dimming themselves so she can appear brighter. Attention and praise are treated like light, and she must be the only one bathed in it. But here is the truth. Light was never meant to belong to just one person. A real friend is not threatened when you shine. A real friend feels proud to stand beside your glow. She laughs with you. She delights in your radiance. Where power dynamics twist your brightness into a threat, true friendship transforms it into shared joy. So now comes the question. How many times have you made yourself smaller, hidden your success, softened your happiness, just to keep your place in the circle? How often have you convinced yourself that dimming a little is harmless, only to realize a part of you is fading away each time? And if your light can be turned into a crime, what does that mean for your joy? Rule number 2, everyone must be equally miserable. Picture yourself walking into a party. On the table, there's no delicious food, no lively music. What gets passed around most are stories of complaint. One friend talks about the stress at work. Another laments her boyfriend. Someone else despises her body. The atmosphere isn't warmed by joy, but by the comfort of shared pain. And in that room, there is an unspoken rule: everyone must be equally miserable. In many female circles, closeness doesn't grow out of happiness, but out of wounds. Sharing pain becomes the language of belonging. If the group is criticizing men, you're not allowed to admit that you're in love and happy. If they are tearing down their bodies, you cannot say you feel confident in yours. If they are struggling financially, you're expected to downplay your own success. This is how the dynamic takes shape. Misery becomes the price of admission. Bonding is built not by celebrating life, but by comparing scars. And if you don't match their struggle, you risk being seen as arrogant, fake, or disloyal. Your joy doesn't draw them closer, it reminds them of what they don't have. Instead of applause, you get silence. Instead of inclusion, you feel distance. What you expected to connect you often isolates you even more. Sometimes joy makes you the outsider far more quickly than pain ever could. The irony is sharp: your happiness, instead of being welcomed, becomes the very reason you're pushed away. So you begin to hide it. You silence your laughter, you soften your victories, you disguise your peace. And little by little, you trade pieces of your own light just to remain in the shadow of belonging. But if joy itself has become forbidden, what will happen when you dare to grow? Rule number 3, don't grow too much. Imagine yourself climbing a ladder. Each step upward is a small victory, a positive change in your life. You learn to take care of yourself. You discover the strength to say no. You begin to carry yourself with more confidence. But just as your foot lands on a higher rung, you feel hands tugging you back down. Not because they want you to fall, but because your growth makes them feel left behind. In many female circles, connection is built on sameness. Shared interests, shared habits, shared worries, even shared complaints. Sameness creates safety. We are alike, therefore we belong together. But the moment one person changes, the circle begins to wobble. Old conversations no longer fit you. The jokes you used to laugh at now feel hollow. And as soon as you step outside that familiar rhythm, you're branded as the one who betrayed the group. Growth, instead of being seen as a natural journey, is framed as abandonment. You hear whispers: you're different now. You've changed. You think you're better than us. Suddenly, every look, every half-joking remark carries a different weight. Your progress becomes a mirror reflecting their stagnation. It isn't that they hate you. It's that you remind them of choices they could make but haven't dared to. The irony is cruel. By doing the best thing for yourself, you are cast as the one hurting others. Your growth feels like a silent accusation against their unwillingness to move. And to keep the peace, you're pushed into a choice: loyalty to the group or loyalty to yourself. A real friend is not threatened by your rise. She doesn't pull you down. She asks how you climbed. She doesn't resent your healing, she wants to learn from it. Your growth becomes her encouragement, not her prison. But when envy and distance take the place of support, what you're left with is not friendship, it's a cage built out of sameness. So which path will you choose to stay and shrink, to preserve a fragile illusion of harmony, or to keep climbing your ladder? Even if it cost you a circle that once felt safe. And yet, the price of difference doesn't end here. Because when you dare to grow, you don't just break the rule of sameness. You step into a hidden courtroom, where judgment is already waiting for you. Rule number 4, always agree with the group's judgment. Imagine a hidden courtroom. There's no official judge, no written law, yet verdicts are handed down every day. You're sitting with your friends. The conversation seems harmless until someone becomes the subject. A person gets labeled as annoying, too much, or worse, crazy. And in that moment, the group's eyes turn toward you, waiting. No one says it out loud, but you know what's expected. You nod, you agree. In the dynamics of many female groups, there always needs to be a scapegoat, someone sacrificed to strengthen the bond of the circle. When everyone criticizes the same person, the shared negativity creates a false sense of closeness. Nobody wants to be the next one put on trial. So the easiest choice is silent agreement. And just like that, the judgment is sealed, even though the accused isn't there to defend herself. On the surface, gossip may look like small talk, a way to pass the time. But beneath it, something far more serious is happening. Gossip becomes a loyalty test. When you join in, you prove you belong. When you hesitate, you look suspicious. And if you dare to disagree, if you say, "Actually, I think she's pretty kind," the atmosphere shifts instantly and smiles turn stiff, eyes grow distant, and sometimes the silence itself feels heavier than words. Gossip isn't just about tearing someone down, it's a tool of control. It draws the line between us and them. It forces you to choose stay safe by joining in, or risk being marked as the outsider. And many, out of fear of exclusion, trade their truth for belonging. But real friendship doesn't work this way. You don't need to participate in tearing someone apart to be accepted. In healthy bonds, you're free to hold your own perspective, free to defend what is right, free to say, "I don't see it that way." Loyalty isn't proven by destroying someone else's reputation. Loyalty is built on trust and respect, even when opinions differ. So ask yourself, how many times have you nodded along when inside you didn't believe it? How many times have you smiled at someone's judgment just to protect your own place in the group? Because here lies the truth. The moment you dare to disagree, you cross into the group's greatest taboo. Rule number 5, never call out bad behavior. Picture a wall that has already begun to crack. Instead of fixing the foundation, someone just paints over it. From the outside, the wall looks clean and smooth, but underneath, the fractures keep spreading. One day, the entire surface may collapse from just a light touch. Many female friendships are built the same way. On the surface, there are smiles, hugs, and words like "it's fine." But underneath, there are wounds that have never been named. In many groups, there exists an unspoken agreement: I won't confront you if you won't confront me. A careless joke that stings, you're expected to swallow it. A broken promise. Constant flakiness. Even betrayal of trust, you're supposed to let it slide, because if you speak up, you'll be seen as the one making drama. Silence becomes the price you pay to keep the peace, and people learn to pretend everything is okay. But what is the cost of silence? Trust begins to erode. Friendship turns into a stage where everyone performs the role of tolerant instead of being truly connected. The more coats of paint you put over the cracks, the weaker the wall becomes. And eventually, it takes only a small incident to bring the whole thing crashing down, exposing everything that was hidden. Here's the irony: unknown, many believe silence preserves friendship. In reality, silence is the greatest drama of all. Because it doesn't resolve anything, it only allows the damage to build. What's called keeping the peace is nothing more than a mask. And each time you put it on, a little piece of your authenticity disappears. In real friendship, honesty isn't a threat. It's the foundation. You can say, "That hurt me," without fearing abandonment. A true friend will listen, apologize if necessary, and try to make it right. Healthy friendships don't fall apart because of one honest conversation. They grow stronger because of it. So ask yourself, how many times have you chosen to stay silent rather than speak your truth? How many times have you smiled when inside you felt the sting? How many times have you carried the weight alone just to avoid being labeled as too much? The truth is, if you cannot call out what is wrong, you will stay trapped in a cycle that never ends. Rule number 6, problems are welcome, solutions are not. Picture a boat caught in a storm. Everyone on board is complaining about the crashing waves, the fierce wind, the dark sky above. Voices rise with frustration, but no one picks up an oar. And if you dare to suggest, "Let's row, we can get out of this," all eyes turn toward you cold, accusing. You've broken the unspoken rule here. Problems are welcome, but solutions are not. In many female friendships, venting is treated as a form of connection. You sit and listen as someone retells the same painful story about a bad relationship, a draining job, a hopeless situation. At first, you sympathize. But when the same story repeats over and over, you try to encourage, "You deserve better." Or have you thought about changing this? In that moment, you realize you've crossed a line. Suddenly, you're not seen as compassionate, but as someone who doesn't understand or doesn't know how to listen. The truth is, allowing only pain but never solutions keeps the cycle alive. When problems are never addressed, the friendship always has something to revolve around. Suffering becomes the glue, and finding a way out would mean breaking that bond. So many choose to stay in the storm, not because they want to escape, but because they want someone to sit beside them in it. The paradox is clear. This kind of empathy doesn't heal, it traps. It turns you into an unwilling audience to a play that never ends. You lose energy listening to the same loop, and you get drawn into a dynamic where stagnation masquerades as closeness. Healthy friendship looks different. You can share your pain, but you're also encouraged to move forward. You're listened to, but also challenged to grow. True support isn't endless sympathy, it's the courage to help each other out of the storm. So ask yourself, how many times have you sat in conversations that went nowhere? How many times have you held the oar in your hands, only to set it down for fear of upsetting someone? Because if solutions are not allowed, you'll remain trapped in a cycle of problems that never ends. Rule number 7, you're not allowed to have boundaries. Picture yourself as a flame. At first, you burn brightly, warm and full of life, ready to give light and comfort to those around you. But the more hands reach toward you, the more your fire is drained. Eventually, instead of glowing, you are reduced to ashes because your energy has been consumed until nothing is left. In many female friendships, there is an unspoken rule like this: you are not allowed to have boundaries. If a friend calls you at midnight, you're expected to pick up. If she wants to talk for hours, you must listen, even when you're exhausted. If she asks you to cancel your own plans for the group, you're supposed to agree. And if you dare to say no, you're labeled selfish or told you're not being a good friend. Loyalty is confused with endless sacrifice, and you're forced to abandon yourself in order to be accepted. The price of this rule is exhaustion. Many don't realize how drained they are until they've given so much that they no longer have strength left for their own lives. They believe they're being loyal, but in reality, they've turned themselves into a resource others can endlessly consume. And the irony is, this sacrifice doesn't make them more loved. It only teaches those around them to take their presence for granted. True friendship is different. When you say, "I can't," a real friend understands. She doesn't guilt you. She doesn't make you feel like you failed. She knows that boundaries aren't walls to shut her out, but foundations that keep the relationship strong. Because when you choose to give your time and energy, it comes from freedom, not pressure. And that choice is what makes it valuable. So ask yourself, how many times have you set aside your own needs just to meet someone else's? How many times have you sacrificed your sleep, your work, even your peace of mind, just to play the role of the good friend? How many times have you smiled through exhaustion, afraid that saying no would leave you abandoned? The truth is, if you're not allowed to have boundaries, you lose yourself in a relationship that looks close on the surface but is, in reality, a hidden prison. Why we keep playing these games? Have you ever wondered why, even when we know these hidden rules are unfair and suffocating, we still keep playing along? Why do we force a smile when someone is being judged, even though we know it feels wrong? Why do we sacrifice our sleep, our peace, our joy just to keep our place in a circle that never truly feels safe? The answer lies deep in the past. These hidden rules don't only exist in friendships, they are carried over from childhood. If you grew up in an environment where safety depended on reading the emotions of others, you learn to scan quickly every glance, every frown, every silence. You learn to hide your own feelings to avoid anger, to avoid being abandoned. And so you develop the habit of putting other people's needs above your own, simply to be accepted. That child never really left. It still sits inside you, tense and watchful, afraid that even the smallest difference could lead to rejection. So when you step into new relationships, you unconsciously replay the same game. You believe that if you comply, if you nod along, if you sacrifice yourself, you will be loved. But in truth, you're only reenacting the old script in new roles. The most painful part is not that others force you to play. It's that you walk into the game on your own because you haven't yet realized that you're no longer that child. You are grown now. You have the right to stop, the right to say no, the right to define friendship on your own terms. Pause for a moment and ask yourself, are you clinging to a toxic circle just because you're afraid of being left behind? Are you unconsciously continuing the very game you've long grown tired of? Recognizing this is the first step, but the journey beyond is even harder. Because when you dare to break the cycle, you'll face a truth that is not easy to accept. Your difference will lead you into a new place, where loneliness greets you first before freedom finally does. When you finally choose freedom, picture a snake shedding its skin. The moment is painful, the old layer tearing away piece by piece, exposing the fragile body beneath. In that instant, it is more vulnerable than ever. But this pain is the ritual that allows it to live on, to grow, to become stronger. Stepping out of the hidden rules of female friendships feels the same. You must face the sting of watching old relationships fall away, of leaving behind circles that once felt familiar. What you feel first is not freedom, it's loneliness. When you stop following the unspoken rules, many will turn their backs. There will be days when you look around and see the empty chair beside you. Nights when you hold your phone and realize you have no one to call. That silence tempts you to go back, to to squeeze yourself once more into a false circle, just so you don't feel so alone. But loneliness here is not a sign of failure. It is the ritual of maturity. It is the clearing of space, so that new and genuine friendships can enter. The price of freedom is accepting temporary absence, so you can later find true presence. And here is the truth you must hold on to. You are not losing friends. You are only losing shadows that were never really with you. Those who leave don't go because you did something wrong. They go because they cannot exist in the light you have chosen to live in. A true friend will never demand that you shrink to fit. She will stand beside you as you shine, and let that light illuminate her too. Real friendship doesn't ask you to sacrifice yourself to belong. It allows you to be yourself fully, unapologetically. So ask yourself if today you let go of the wrong circle. Do you have enough faith to believe the right people will enter tomorrow? This is the awakening moment. You don't need to shrink to be loved. You don't need to hide your joy to keep a place in the circle. Real freedom begins the moment you dare to choose yourself. And if you're hearing this now, remember this journey has only just begun. Don't miss the steps ahead. Choose to walk with us, because once you've seen the truth, you can never go back to the way things were.